Awesome. So welcome everyone. We're just going to give everybody a little bit of time to join. As always, I'm sure people will just be trickling in, but thank you so much if you guys are joining us today. Okay, and if you have questions as we go, please do feel free to throw them in the chat. You should have access to the chat. Anything that we don't get to today, obviously, we'll give you our contact so we can chat further. But I want you guys to feel free to go ahead and jump in the chat at any time. So we'll let people continue just to trickle in as we get started, but we'll go ahead and start now. So obviously today's topic is going to be unplanned work, revolutionizing intake to level up your procurement. My name is Maya, and I'm going to be moderating today, but let's go ahead and get you introduced to your hosts as well. So we have Matthew Buckingham. He's our SVP of Business Development and Partnerships, and Zachary Bolt, SVP Strategy and Operations. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Thanks, Maya.
Thank you, Maya. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have both of them, real procurement pros. So let's go ahead and jump in. Before we get started with our questions, we'll go over everything that we're going to talk about today. So the first is, what is unplanned work in procurement? We'll just talk about what it is. How intake benefits the end user in the organization. How does intake benefit procurement teams and their leaders? And then we'll talk a little bit, of course, about focal point and how we help facilitate all of that. Sound good? So we'll just dive right in. Question one, what is unplanned work in procurement? Matthew, maybe you can kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and thanks again for everybody for joining. We see some people trickling in and some interesting folks out there. I think, first of all, it's ironic. Unplanned work in procurement is kind of the thing that everybody thinks of as the thing that the procurement does. It's the buying stuff. It's getting a request, getting out there, buying it, and making sure the business gets it. Procurement actually does a lot more than that. So if you procurement folks out there, we know that you're doing all sorts of other planned work. And if you look back on our webinar schedule, you'll see that we did a webinar on that a little while ago. Let's dig into unplanned work, though. It refers to, I mean, the official explanation from the Association of Supply Chain Management is it's unplanned work refers to the unexpected and ad hoc requests that procurement teams receive. It's often arising from changing needs, market conditions, sudden operational needs, gaps in communication can be a big thing as well. So people kind of know that they need this stuff, but they don't tell anybody until that last minute. If they planned a year ahead, you know, we could do a contract on it or whatever. These unplanned expenses, they often lead to spot buying, and spot buying means going out there and finding a supplier, buying it urgently normally, which means it's more expensive often, less controlled, especially when procurement's not involved. So if you're doing unplanned work and you're doing it outside of procurement, often you just will not get the best price. I don't know, Zach, got any thoughts?
Yeah, you know, I do. And I've heard the terminology, you know, unplanned work. I've also heard it called reactive work, as opposed to proactive work or planned, or things that you strategically want to focus on as a procurement organization. As I'm looking over the attendees here coming in from some of our clients that we've worked with, they tell me, you know, look, we're drowning in these requests. We have all these issues, and we really don't have time to even focus on the work that's honestly going to move the needle inside the organization in terms of managing our spend, the categories that I'm responsible for, helping to reduce, mitigate risk, and assure that we have supply. And so I think this arises largely because maybe organizations have underinvested in proper buying channel guidances for folks. They don't have enough catalog content. And then you have a lot of spend that's off catalog that people just, you know, you can't put it in a cart really easily and check it out and go. And so you have this work that comes in that people, I like what you said, Matthew, about people, you know, they think that's what procurement does. Like they sit by their keyboard and they wait for you to message them because they need to buy something. Mm-hmm. And in reality, they're doing so much more than that. And I think of the unplanned work scenario as kind of like the Slack Slack messages that we get or the emails that are always bombarding your inbox. And what happens is that stuff's constantly distracting you from the actual work that you need to be doing, the strategic things that move the needle in terms of the ability of the organization to manage the spend and mitigate risk, et cetera, like I mentioned before. So for me, it's that this has to be done. You have to service the needs of the business, whether it's marketing or it's finance or services or whatever. You've got to service the needs of the business, but doing so in a way that doesn't just disrupt the entire flow of what you need to focus on as a procurement professional is very, very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think if you can start to anticipate that potential unplanned work, if you can start to get to it more quickly, make it a more flexible approach for the end user and the person who needs that or has that need, and more that need's going to becoming more autonomously and automatically from as AI comes into different parts of the business. And one of us had to say AI at one point, right, Zach?
Absolutely.
But
sure.
as it starts to automate the processes, this is where the concept of agility comes into play. I was reading a report from the Hackett Group recently. Agility in procurement means, I'd written it down here somewhere, being able to anticipate or sense changes and swiftly implement effective decisions in response. If we can make procurement more agile and more able to cope with this unplanned work, we can make them shine within the company, but also buy better, buy from the right people, enable things like ESG, so sustainability, and make sure you're hitting your diversity goals and things as well, because this can all be brought into a strategic area as well, more and more.
Yeah, I want to double click on something you said a moment ago, though. You're talking about anticipating or predicting the needs of the business, and companies that have the luxury of the procurement staff to be able to sort of embed themselves into the functional areas, like if it's marketing or wherever it's at, and then really have closely linked business partners, but a lot of that work directly with people, so they're able to predict and anticipate needs better. But so many people don't have the staffing for that, and they just don't have the capacity, and so they end up completely just reactive, working to whatever comes in the door. And a lot of times, maybe even large buckets of spend or things like that. You talked earlier about emergencies, and they didn't know it was coming, and so now it's the fire that we got to go put out. And so it happens, but there's got to be a better way here, right, Maya? There's got to be a better way for us to be able to manage that unplanned work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I loved all of that. I thought that was super, super helpful. So now that we've talked a little bit about what unplanned work is, we'll go ahead and we will talk a little bit more about the benefits of strategic intake for end users within the organization.
Zach, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I do. So the first topic here is on the intake benefit for business users. So if you think about it, and the concept or topic, the way I pitch this topic all the time is going to where people are at, right? Go to where the business requesters are. Don't necessarily make them come to your solution. Go to where those people are at. So what are those benefits for those folks? Obviously, most of the time you've got casual users who make a purchase once or maybe twice a year, or even your more powerful business users are once or twice a month. And so one of our clients that we work with, they had 17 different buying channels. 17, like how does anybody know where to go? And so what they're able to do is to leverage a solution to be able to guide people to one place. One of our customers calls it their digital front door. Even if you've got already made an investment in e-procurement, maybe you raise IT tickets in ServiceNow or whatever it is that you do, you've got one place where you guide people so that everybody knows, all right, I go here. So that's a benefit right there for them. And then being able to get things posted into the door, just kind of swept in so that somebody can start helping me get my need met. That's another benefit. It sort of takes the pressure off people. They're like, okay, I go here, and then something's going to guide me to get me right to the spot that I need to go. And then I'm going to have a predicted path in front of me so that I know, all right, it's going to take about this long to get this need met. And then these are the milestones that it has to go through along that path. And so there's that comfort. And so what you end up with is a much better user experience, kind of like if you're going on to a consumer. I just booked a vacation on a vacation site. And it was so easy, right? You just go on, I need a cabin in the Smokies, and away we go, and you get your place booked, and there you are. So being able to provide that kind of experience that's comforting and very self-service for the business users gives them a much better feeling about working with procurement. And then lastly, they understand and know, when am I going to get my needs service? And that's what everybody's looking for, is when am I going to get my stuff? When am I going to get my contractor onboarded? When am I going to get my needs service? That's what they're looking for. And so being able to channel that through an intake solution, you can sort of meet all of those needs and make it a really, really good experience for the business requester. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, similar, obviously, but first of all, I'm worried that you're taking vacation. I'm not sure if that's okay. But
apparently it's permitted occasionally around here.
I think if you're automating the processes as well, I mean, transparency, visibility is absolutely critical, and that enables the procurement team to actually get on the job of doing the right thing at the right time, right, and with the right people. So if you can start to automate some of those processes as well, those end users, like you said, they're not having to chase their updates. They can see where it is on that pizza tracker and say, it's coming out of the kitchen today, it'll be delivered tomorrow, kind of thing. That kind of thing is really critical. And I think also you shouldn't underestimate the reduction in errors as well. So if we've got all of this stuff into one system, if we've got a way to track it through the process, we're not going to have as many errors and and delays as well. And you're going to have this kind of auditable trail for the business user as well. So the business user can see why the decisions were made at different points. They'll have visibility into that, and that business user may not be the original person who had the request and the requirement. It could also be the CFO, or the controller, who needs to understand, why did we decide to go with this specific supplier? Why did we make that decision at that point? How has that impacted my sustainability and things like that? It's really good for them as well.
Yeah, and I want to double click on point number 2 here: enhanced visibility into request status. Matt, you and I talked with someone yesterday at a very well-known brand, and their request is all done like via email, and then they've got like a little Excel type of database that they've set up to track all the requests. They have to manually go update all that. IT has a different intake process, so they have to meet weekly and fold it all together. And then anytime a business requester needs an update on the request, they have to either service it via an instant message, an email, or a phone call or something like that, which again continues to distract away from procurement actually being able to focus on their core job. And so being able to provide that sort of transparency and visibility helps people to be self-service, and then takes that load off of procurement. And you can't really overestimate the value of that in terms of what you're gaining on the back end. Imagine not having to go fold in multiple spreadsheets just to have a clear view of everything that we've got outstanding, or not having to go write all your updates. As the procurement and other stakeholders that you're collaborating with inside a solution work and just do their jobs, then naturally the process is updated back to the requester user, and they're able to be fully self-service, whether they're on mobile or they want to log in or they want to interrogate via Slack or Teams and see what's the status of my request. All of those type of things, they're able to be self-service, and so that's empowering for the business user.
Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. I think that was all great. Yeah. You said you can't overstate the benefit of not having to go back and forth over email for an update. Like, who doesn't love that? So absolutely. Let's move to the next question. Let's talk a little bit about how intake can benefit procurement teams. So on the other side now.
Sure. Yeah, I think for procurement teams, some of those benefits are going to flood through from the business user as well. They're going to be similar in some ways. Intake, it's going to reduce those manual tasks they have to do as well. So if an intake solution like Focal Point is set up correctly, you're going to get the right data coming to them at the right time. So they're going to get more information on the initial intake. They're going to understand you know, what somebody wants to buy, how many of them, from whom potentially they want to buy it, and why they want to buy it from that particular supplier. But also, they're going to free up time to be able to focus therefore on strategic initiatives. So the knock-on effect is not only that they get through that process more quickly, the knock-on effect is that they can then focus on the more strategic stuff, which is actually probably reducing the unplanned element by bringing it into planned as well as time goes on. And the more unplanned work you get into a solution for the procurement team, it's going to allow people to automate more efficiently and more effectively as well, and triage, etc. Yeah, I think the other thing is that stuff's just not going to get lost for the procurement team. It's going to be triaged into the right place at the right time. Zach, do you want to expand a bit?
Yeah, I'm actually going to riff for a minute on something that's not even on this slide, because it occurred to me as you started talking. So, you know, one would think, that if you go and you buy a full source to pay solution suite, that you would have, or even if you have, you know, disparate parts that are integrated or whatever, you'd think that the process to service a need from intake, a need in the door, all the way through the purchase order being cut would sort of be straightforward, especially if you buy a fully integrated solution suite. It turns out that's actually not the case. So what happens is, after requests are submitted, let's say you do a form that goes into a requisition in a cart. Let's say you fill out a form, because sometimes people ask me, they're like, you know, why couldn't we just use our e-procurement solution for intake? Well, you can, except pretty much your stopping off point after that form's filled out is it's going to go into a cart, which is going to go into some sort of requisition. And if it can't go straight through, it's going to go to a buyer's desk. And then all the motions that happen between the request being submitted and the PO being issued, all of that stuff happens. Maybe it's even in the same solutions, but a lot of times it's not even connected. We need a supplier set up. We need a contract done. We have to have a risk review done. Even in the inside solution suites, these your disparate pieces don't even talk to each other. And so now procurement's like, well, heck, I don't know where it's at. You know, the person who's literally working on it doesn't know, well, has the sourcing team finished, or is the legal team done with the contract? Like, we don't know. And so one of the benefits for procurement folks is being able to have that visibility with an enterprise grade workflow that backs up that intake right behind it and goes into that, I'll use the term orchestration here, that sort of orchestrates everything. Not only does it foster that collaboration, but it helps people have, I got one pane of glass. I go right here inside my focal point, and there it is. Everything that I'm working on, the dates that everything is due, it's all right there on one flat pane of glass. And so the benefit for that is enormous. You know, Matt, you know, we talk about this all the time. Our clients tell us that the advent of our solution makes an organization 20 to 30% more efficient with the exact same staff. 20% more efficient is giving literally a day a week back per person. Imagine if you got one FTE day per week back. What could you do? You could take over the world. You can capture more spend under management. You can reduce risk in your categories. You can do so much stuff by those process efficiency gains while servicing the needs of the business yet more effectively. And so for me, the intake benefit for procurement teams is just it's astonishing, the benefits and the gains that you get from, I like your terminology, not having things drop through the cracks, being able to make sure that we wring every bit of value out, because now we're able, with intake earlier in the process, we're able to influence spend more effectively by having one place that people know to go. So people are likely to go there earlier, and then we get the ability to do more influence early on in the process, which obviously results in better outcomes in terms of savings and the cost the price that we're paying for the services and the goods that we purchase and whatnot. So the benefits here to me are, I mean, beyond the ones that are on the slide here, just absolutely enormous, absolutely enormous.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, and that technology layer is what's enabling this. So you know, you've got, again, looking at Hackett Group, but Gartner says the same thing. I was just talking to Dr. Eloise Epstein, and she was saying exactly the same thing from Kearney. Bringing in AI and RPA as well and advanced analytics, we can automate those processes and speed up how we're getting stuff done, which increases efficiency, and it's better data. And then you can start using that better data to actually predict outcomes in the future as well, which makes you even more automated, and it just goes round and round and round. And I'm not saying that we'll ever get to a point where everything within procurement is run by AI, far from it. But you can use your human intelligence in a much better and much more effective way in the future.
Yeah, for sure. It's the fact that we're able to channel everything that folks need to do into one space, and that goes beyond just procurement. So procurement interfaces with so many different groups in the organization. There's privacy and security and risk and legal and finance and IT. And so, like, I have people coming at me all the time, even inside our company. They're like, Zach, I need you to so-and-so. Maya needs screenshots, and Steve needs to talk to me and all that. And it just comes in all different ways. I'm like, put it on my Monday board. Put me an item in my Monday board. If I have like one place to go, and now procurement can begin to communicate with other teams for their needs on those same things, leveraging focal point. You can provide those actions, you can provide those to-dos. And so somebody who's in a different group, if they're using a different solution that's integrated or not, if it's integrated, great, they do their work there and it updates us back, terrific. But a lot of people have offline manual processes, but you can still give them one place to go to look to see everything that procurement needs in order for them to be servicing the needs of the purchasing and sourcing and supply into the business. So another benefit there is that collaborative aspect enables them to be more effective communicators of their needs and the timelines and the timeframes of which they need things actioned.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that was awesome. I loved your real world example of me pestering you for things. No, but that's awesome. So super, super, super helpful. Let's move on to our last topic, and perhaps our most exciting. So let's talk about, obviously, a little bit more about how we help, how Focal Point helps, and then a little bit about kind of use cases. We get into kind of the real world applications of these things.
All right. So I'm going to take first whack at that. And so the lens that I'm going to come at this obviously more from a product perspective and a solutioning, and then Matthew with more of client facing sort of stories. So for me, and I'm going to double click on what Matt said a little bit, talking about AI a little bit earlier. I haven't mentioned it in this webinar, so it's my turn to bring that up. So, I mean, when you get beyond that base layer of having a zippy, a snazzy looking front end to pull in your requests and manage the user experience, and then you've got the orchestration, the process flow layers on top of it, then you have to start looking, to me, beyond it, a couple of other things. Number one is, how do we integrate other applications and systems, not only that we own, like to our ERP or to our e-procurement solution, but things that are like third-party data sources. So being able to marry in and fold in all sorts of different external data sources to give you a focal point, a single place to look when you're executing your work. Great example is how Focal Point is integrated supplier IOs, diversity supplier capabilities and discovery into the core solution here. So now when you're doing an activity, I've got a request that I'm servicing, maybe we need to go source this, but we have edicts that we need to have diverse suppliers in these categories. And so then you're able to then search and use external systems like supplier IO, find what you're looking for, drag and drop it into a project, and then push that over into your sourcing application. So those type of efficiency gains and the ability to bolster and support corporate initiatives is really, really, really important. But then on top of that, you start looking at layering in artificial intelligence. And I like the way our AI developer puts this. He says, think about AI as a junior intern. So it's a task or an activity that you could give effectively, you could train a junior intern to do. You can train AI to go do those activities. So for some examples of things that we're doing, contract metadata extraction via AI. Go find all these data points, pop them in on the contract record. Enrich a supplier record via AI. Guide a requester user and help them get categorized on their request and help them move through that process, and just on and on. So when I think about layering AI on top of it, it becomes your digital assistant that helps make you as a procurement professional even more effective and efficient during your workday, because it's taking a lot of that junior intern stuff that you have to do off of your plate. So that's what sort of the vision of where where we're going is to leverage artificial intelligence as a digital assistant to help you relieve you of doing the mundane activities and tasks that you have to do constantly, and enabling you to focus more on the work that you have to have a human brain to apply to in order to be able to accomplish. So Matt, give me, as our time begins to wane down here, give me your perspectives on, you talk with a lot of clients and things, give me your thoughts on what you're hearing in the market and how the orchestration and intake solutions that we're talking about here can help to mitigate alleviate pain inside the procurement organizations and with the stakeholder community at large.
Yeah, I think that the main thing that I'm starting to hear, and is how can we move stuff from left to right? And I'm getting that the correct way around now on the camera, but how can we move stuff from left to right in the quickest possible way? And the way to do that, absolutely, as you say, is to bring that data to the right person at the right time. Tell them what tool to be using if they need to be using it. And automating those tasks as well. You could get to the point where you're actually, and we probably are at that point, where you're actually saying, okay, the triage is this just goes into this workflow, and the workflow, the first step is to send it to a sourcing solution that sources this from somewhere, but it automatically sources it. It could be an Orchestra, a Pactum, a Kielvar. There's 5,700 of them out there, but one of those tools is going out there and finding the best price, finding the best supplier is something that we would help with as well. So that's a big thing for companies at the moment, especially the more enterprise customers are very interested in ESG and how they can manage their diverse suppliers and their sustainability of their suppliers, but proactively, rather than reactively just reporting on what's going on. They want to be able to affect and impact those goals in advance. So especially with unplanned work, this is really critical for them because suddenly they need to buy something, and buying it from the wrong supplier could adversely impact how they want to proceed as a company strategically, right at that CEO level. I want to buy from a carbon neutral partner, supplier. I want to buy from somebody who has good ethics, and it has to be low risk and ideally onshore as well. We can then help to define all of that in one go and proactively buy from the correct person or people. It's really critical for people as they go forward, but then also reporting that becomes really critical as well. So how can we not only have that audit trail and de-risk the whole process, but how can we actually report that afterwards as well is the thing that customers and prospective customers are asking us for all the time. And that's what you can do in Focal Point. You can say, this is the correct supplier to select because we've looked at all this data. This is why you would select it, and we'll make a note of that as we go through. And that could all be done either autonomously or with a person. But then we can then report on that as after the event as well, and that helps with the strategic planning for next year. And I'm talking, and we're running out of time, Maya. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I was very invested. Both awesome answers, and this has been a really, really fun one. I think we could talk about this for hours, truly. But in any case, I don't think that I saw any questions in the chat. I don't know. Maybe somebody can double check and we'll see if we have any. But it doesn't look like we do, which is good news. So if you do have any questions, I want you to know that you can definitely reach out to us. Either contact Zach or Matthew, or you can join us over on LinkedIn as well. And you will go ahead, since you attended, and get an email after the fact that's going to have a recording of this awesome conversation. But like I said, we want to keep the convo going. Please join us over on LinkedIn to continue that, and feel free, of course, to reach out. Also, we do have our next upcoming webinar that's going to be on the future of procurement orchestration in collaboration with Sourcing Industry Group. So that's going to be a really exciting one. I did have a QR code here, but it looks like it's gone and disappeared on me, which is sad, but not to worry. You'll have the registration link in your inbox when you get the recording of this webinar on demand as well. So all that good housekeeping stuff. And I again want to say thank you to Zach and Matthew for joining us today and sharing those insights. That was really good. I think I learned something too, which is awesome.
Hey, appreciate you
me
having
too.
us, and thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you for taking time with us.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thanks. Come to the next one. It's going to be really cool.
It will. Yes, definitely register.